Welcome to Open Mic with Groove Kitty. Our aim is to have authentic, engaging conversations with interesting people. This podcast is for you, so please share, like, follow, and subscribe. When you do, it increases our exposure on each platform, which in turn helps to promote our guests. Remember, a rising tide lifts all boats. Now, without further ado, on to our show.
This is the song I won the songwriting contest for. It's called Trapped in a Jar. Yeah. I took it too far. I'm tired of waiting, and you keep me in your jar while time keeps fading. Will you let me out? I'll keep knocking on the lid. You'll see what I'm about, and I'll fly away. So far, and I'll fly away. So far, I'll crawl on all your walls, but I'll keep slipping. And I've wings so that I don't fall. Just let me use them. And I've tried with what I've got. I'll keep waiting for you to just give me one more shot, and I'll fly away. So far, and they'll fly away. So far, and they'll fly away. So far, and they'll fly away. So far, so far.
Otherwise, I dig those treads, man. The shoes, yeah. What are those?
These are golden gooses.
Golden Goose? I haven't heard of those.
Yeah. Italian shoe brand.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got them at Worn. It's like this higher end like leather store in Mount Pleasant. It's
Oh, really?
it's right next to Harris Teeter.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
They got some really cool stuff in there. Like especially if you want like leather jackets. That's like a
Oh,
good place
really?
to
So I
go.
got all kinds of stuff,
They
not
have
just
tons of stuff. It's not just shoes, but they have a lot of leather in there, and like
yeah.
yeah, it's really nice.
You a leather guy?
I like leather. Yeah,
I do too. I love leather.
I was gonna say,
I love me some good leather.
I
Yeah.
can see Scott loving that.
You got to see. You haven't seen my next suit, have you? For next show, it's velvet.
You show me.
Oh, I showed you
It's
the
like,
velvet
it's like
one?
that gold,
It's nice. Yeah,
gold velvet.
gold velvet, and it's like a combination nightclub, really bad prom, gold velvet. I got a bow tie I'm gonna wear with it. Yeah, I'll rock that one out. And then I got my Valentine's Day show.
Then you got to do a
Yeah.
velvet Elvis suit. If you could do an Elvis suit made out of velvet, you'd have the velvet Elvis suit.
I could. You want to pull that mic just a little bit off your voice?
Yeah.
You're a little loud, yeah.
Yeah.
So Max, I'm like really into crazy clothes and stuff, and just like fun stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen our band before, but we're pretty much a party band, and so it's always about just having a good time and doing some good stuff. So Little bit different than your genre. But all
I
good.
don't mind parties. I was just wearing a velvet suit at one last night.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
But tell me about this suit.
Oh, it's just like it's nothing crazy. It's not gold by any means, but it's this just black blazer that's like got velvet all over it. It's got a satin collar. It really
Yeah.
super nice.
Nice.
So I like to
Nice.
wear that when I go out.
Yeah.
And
All right. What's the name of that place again? Warren, right?
Warren.
All right. I'm going to check that out.
WORN.
All right. So Max Besta. So I learned about you through my friend here, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, welcome, by the way.
Thank you.
Came out and saw you a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Really liked what I heard and saw. So
Thank you.
young singer songwriter,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
wanted to have you in here and talk a little bit about sort of your life and who you are, and let people get to know you, and just sort of about your music. And you were saying before we started, you just started your second semester at COC. Is that what you're going to COC?
Yeah, College of Charleston. Yeah.
What are you studying there?
I'm an arts management major with a music industry concentration.
So what does that do?
I guess it's people ask me and I don't even know how to answer sometimes. I would say that it's kind of marketing business courses directed towards arts disciplines.
Oh, okay.
So my music industry concentration, I'm getting more in depth, like behind the scenes on how labels work, how vinyl is pressed, how agents, go about work, how
Yeah.
managers go about their work, and essentially, if I stay and I get my degree in this, then I'll land jobs like, just either managing myself or managing other artists.
Right.
It kind of goes both ways. It's very like broad major, which is what I liked. It still allows me to focus on music, but not so much so that I run out of a passion for it. I got music majors dropping out left and right. Because over here, like, I feel like education and music doesn't always make a good intersection. So I thought it was like a good in between.
What? And why do you think a lot of them drop out? Like from talking to them.
It's just too much. Like I said, I don't think that education and something like that always make a good intersection. Like in a way that I don't know. Like the creativity is not. There's very limited ways to express it.
Yeah.
And your artistry and I don't know. At least that's how I view music. It's a way that I can express myself. And if I am doing it for a grade, if I'm doing it a certain way to please other people, and I'm being told this is the right way to do it, then I'm not gonna like it anymore.
That's a very interesting point, because if we have a girl in our band, a woman in our band who is classically trained.
Yeah.
And she's getting more
Improvisational?
Yeah, improvisational. She's improvising more, but it's been a challenge for her up front, because being classically trained, there is no interpretation.
Yep.
And so it's not wrong. It's like it's maybe what you would call an academic exercise, almost, as opposed to a heart and soul creative exercise. So interesting.
Yeah, and I know this is something that I wanted to do, but I didn't even plan on going to college in the first place, actually, because I was like, I feel like a lot of the things I've interest in don't require a degree, but I was like, I feel like there's something there that I'll miss out on. There's information that I need to see and I won't see anywhere else, and so here I am, and I love it so far. And
good.
I'm taking really cool, in-depth classes. I mean, I got to intern at Satilli Theater recently and be there on the soundboard and everything. It was great. I mean, I'm getting a lot of opportunities already, and I've just started. So
yeah, I think that's a really healthy approach, I think, with education, right? Because it's changed so much now where we can find information anywhere, right? You can go online and probably learn the blocking and tackling of about anything, right? And so there's always the question, well, where's the value in education? And a lot of education, in my opinion, hasn't caught up to that idea. And particularly in the creative spaces like you're talking about. You can't when you start putting roadblocks or guide rails around creativity, then it's gone, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
what value can I offer the creative mind and the creative soul that will allow you to take whatever you have and now prosper in different ways that maybe you didn't think of. So I'm glad to hear that you feel like you found a program in that space that works.
Hmm.
Because I think I talk to a lot of people who say the opposite. They'd rather get real world experience because they're going to learn a lot more, a lot faster. I came from a software world prior in my prior life, and I can tell you that kids coming out of school were already 5 years behind the curve. You know, they just weren't in the real world application of what was happening with software. The kids that weren't going to school and going and actually working places were light years ahead of them. And I think the educational system was just behind that curve. And software
Yeah.
is a creative world as well, quite frankly. I mean, it's ones and zeros and geeks, but you're still building stuff, you're creating stuff, you're problem solving, which requires a lot of creativity.
There is a creative process to anything,
Yeah.
arguably, and you know, I think I I'm I like to meet people um w- with different degrees and stuff, and I feel like that's always a shared. That's where we find connection. I
Yeah.
think is just like our mindset with creating things, imagining things, and it's so cool to see how many people apply that differently to their own lives and stuff. So yeah, yeah, it's cool to be surrounded with people pursuing what they're passionate about at this like formative stage of my life and stuff. So
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point because that's the other part of it that you can't get if you're just sitting in a room somewhere online learning stuff on your own and scouring through YouTube, right? You're not collaborating or talking to other people, maybe not even in music. They could be in anything. Who we all have a creative part of us, even when we don't think we do. We all have something creative, and when you can, I'm sensing from you a very um, open-minded mentality. Like you're interested to learn from other people and other things and other experiences. And I think that's maybe part of what feeds your creativity too. Yeah, you think so?
I would think so. Yeah, I don't want to keep my circle too tight. I like to
Yeah,
meet other people that are doing completely different things and finding shared interests there. And I don't know. It just opens. It just yeah. It creates that open-minded thing you're talking about.
yeah,
I don't know. And I treat a lot of things like that with the music I listen to. You know, I always tell myself like, not really into country, not really into that death metal stuff. But when people just recommend me things and I see how passionate they are about things, like I always make sure to have an open mind about that too,
mm,
and pull as much material from other music sources as I can, because I realize, at the end of the day, things that I like are all going to construct a unique, creative blend for my own personal benefit,
hmm
for my own creative process and making music, which I try to do as often as I can. So I
yeah.
make sure that I'm always uh, being versatile, I guess, if that's the right way to put
Well,
it.
it's kind of. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, so how that's really basically and a good art, and if we talk about good and bad, but a an artist who is open like that,
Mm-hmm.
they can capture universality. So that's the big thing with lyrics. Like for me, is like I try to be as universal as possible to speak to everyone. So how does that concept that you have, how does that affect your songwriting, would you say?
Um, Well, it's recently I will say that um it's made me want to try to learn different instruments.
Hmm.
I feel like I could play ultimately everything in this room behind us. And it gets the job done. It gets the music done that I want to do, but then there's also like other things I want to pick up. I mean, like I said, I made a point about country, and I always forget that I grew up listening to a lot of bluegrass, and for my birthday's coming up, and I was like, Mom, I know, Poppy had a banjo. I'm interested in learning that if that's sitting around somewhere. So there's that, like, that's affected my songwriting, I guess. Um, Listening to other genres of music, there's different substance material in the lyrics and stuff, and I guess I listen to that, and I don't know. Sometimes I listen to music just simply to fill in fill in some noise and just set a background for me. But then I'm also like trying to observe it and figure out why I like it so much, because that's when I'm trying to take things from it and kind of put this big puzzle together and use it for my own
Well,
benefit. I don't know.
it's a
It's
little
weird.
bit like you're the sum of everything you take in, right?
Yeah,
It's a
and
little
I
bit like
always try to
eating.
look at it like that.
Yeah, it's a little bit like eating food, right? If you eat fucking ringdings and Twinkies and drink soda all day, right? You're going to be a product of that. If you're
And
well
that's not a
round,
very good product.
yeah, exactly, and that would kind of like be the equivalent of, I don't know, listening to bubblegum pop all the time, right?
Yeah.
you're gonna just spit that kind of stuff out. If you have a wide variety of foods, different ethnic foods, different types of things, you're gonna sort of experience something different, and that's gonna kind of make you who you are. And from a
Mm-hmm.
creative perspective,
Well, yeah.
if you live outside of an echo chamber, you can experience more, and it might just be. I kind of have this weird philosophy that ideas aren't ours anyway, that they're all just kind of out there. Every thought we have, every idea, every creative idea is just sort of floating in the ethos, right?
Right.
And some of us are really good at receiving that, like an antenna, and some of us aren't. We just block everything. And I think the people that block everything tend to be more sort of narrow in their focus, right?
Right.
They live in their own echo chamber. They only talk or they only involve themselves in things that are very narrow. When it's very wide and diverse, suddenly that kind of antenna opens up a little bit.
And you'll
And
see that I see that still in, like, even mainstream artists, but they get so caught up in that one trick pony type of thing,
yeah,
and then audience is like, that was so cool, okay, what else you got?
right.
And I think I'm trying to make sure that I'm as open-minded as I can possibly be, so that I could still create like a characteristic, like a statement in all my music, that it's like, I know who that is when someone listens to it,
Mm,
but still making sure that I pull different things from different materials, so that it doesn't all sound the same.
yeah,
I the song I did with him is completely different from a lot of other things that I have out. The song that I even got me the opportunity to record with him sounds far different from what I recorded with him,
yeah.
and even he knows that. And so I try to make sure that I can find a way to put my mark on all the songs that I do, where everybody's like, they kind of know what to expect. They're like, that's him. But then I want to make sure that I
Keep
keep everything,
evolving, keep
yeah,
growing,
keep
keep
evolving,
changing. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's interesting because if you think about, I mean, you're a little young, but I'm sure you're aware of it.
Yeah.
The record industry 30, 40, 50 years ago was completely different, because if you didn't stay within what you were or what worked, then the label didn't want any part of it. There was no experimentation. This was the hit. This was what worked. We want you to
Yeah.
keep replicating that hit. We want Max Besta from album 1 to be in album 2, and X, and so forth and so forth
Yeah.
and so on. And when today's world, of course, where that you can basically produce music on your own, you don't have to have a label behind you. There's a lot more liberty in who you want to be and what you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I often think of it like, imagine it's like in the days of actors being typecast, right? Once you got typecast, you were kind of fucked. You couldn't be anything else. You were, action hero Johnny or something. You couldn't go do a comedy or do a drama. but some of the best actors, the Tom Hanks of the world, who've played every possible conceivable part, and you buy every one of them. You go, you don't. Forrest Gump is also, Sully, who landed a plane in the Hudson. It's the
Yeah.
same dude, right? And he pulls them both off beautifully. And I think it's really nice when you don't feel the pressure as an artist to have to do a certain thing. You've got the freedom to explore and do what you want to do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, working with Max was um, just one thing, a really great experience because, like he said, he's a multi instrumentalist. I mean, every every track. Well, he played every instrument on the track that we did together, um, and he was great at all of them. I mean, after he would finish one, he'd finish a guitar and be like, "Okay, that was great." I was really the chords that he chose, the way he chose to play them was cool, and then he picked up the bass and played that and was, oh, okay, that was great. And then the drums, I was like, oh my gosh, man, this guy, you know. But I've listened to a bunch of his music. I went back, since we were working together. I really wanted to have a good idea of what he'd put out before, and he really just does have a depth in listening to his music that at one minute it could be you're hearing a little bit of the Beatles' White Album, and then over here it's Nirvana, and over here it's some Talking Heads, and over here, I mean, it was just like, okay, I hear an influence of everything in this guy.
Yeah.
And I
But
try to compress it down into one. I don't try to overcomplicate that. Like make it seem like that's what I'm trying to do. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
I was,
Like
I was
Well,
going to say, is that something that's sort of in your thought process, or is it just subconsciously coming out as what you're
Well,
producing?
that, like I was trying to say earlier, I think that was my goal, is to have that subconsciously happen the more material I'm consuming.
Yeah, yeah.
And so,
So have it be organic and authentic. Not like, hey,
right.
I'm going to write a song and the theme of, like Talking Heads merges with the Beatles. You're not thinking that way. It's just coming out because that's what you've exposed
Yeah,
yourself to.
exactly.
Yeah.
And more often than not, it's what I've exposed myself that day even.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if I'm listening to a lot of um folk one day and I go sit down to make a song, most likely I'm going straight for the acoustic,
Mm.
and it's going to have that kind of flair to it rather than me picking up my electric, and because it really, like, it can influence the idea
Yeah.
like differently. I don't know. So,
Now, is your writing intentional like that? Do you say, hey, today I'm going to sit down and do some writing, or is like an idea comes to you and you just grab your whatever's in front of you and you just go? Or walk us through that a little bit, because a lot of people, everyone has different methods, and I think people really enjoy hearing different people's methods of creation.
well, I have a tricky answer to that because it's never the same.
Yeah.
Um, but it most certainly always comes to me in a way, but it's never like, all right, I start with guitar and then I go from there. Like, sometimes it starts with a melody, sometimes it starts with lyrics that have nothing assigned to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it starts with a bass line, sometimes it starts with a drum groove. Like, it all happens. It really, I don't even know what fuels it, and I think it's just the consumption of listening to music all the
Yeah.
time. It just all kind of pieces something together, and I don't know. It just, random melodies or stuff will run through my mind day in, day out, and the things that I don't forget about, I'm like, okay, there's a reason that that's still stuck in my head. I'm gonna sit down and do something about it. And so I'd say most of the time though, it starts with guitar. Um, Even though it's different every time, but I would say that guitar is most of the
Yeah.
time. That was actually the last instrument I picked up. That was like the last piece to my puzzle for the whole one-man band thing. Being able to do everything by myself was just like so ideal for me. But,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, I released one more song after I worked with Brian, and that one, I mean, I created the demo for it start to finish. Like, I wrote it and created the demo for it start to finish in 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
And that was, I had my laundry, I had a timer for it. I was about to go get it, and I sat down. I played 2 chords, and I was like, I mean, normally I write songs with a little more than just 2 chords, but something about this is cool. I went to go get my laundry. I came back. I opened my computer and I just laid the guitar in, and then everything else just kind of fell into place. Like I didn't even have to force myself to think about it. I think it's just so hard to explain how my process is because it's just I don't know. It just kind of happens. Like I get the idea, and then everything else just like pops up in my head, and it's almost like I go with the first choice every time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I don't sit there and really think about it too hard anymore
Because
because
that's where it goes.
yeah,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be natural if I sat there and I, you know, don't get me wrong, there's still trial and error,
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
but the idea that I first get, I really work on tweaking that and making it perfect. And yeah, I mean,
Do you use GarageBand?
I used GarageBand for a long time, and then maybe I think it was 2 Christmases ago, I got the Logic Pro
Yeah.
like package with there's like it has like a package with like a editing software as well for like videos and stuff too. I can't remember what
Mm.
it's called because I haven't used it
Yeah.
yet.
I find having something
Um,
that like GarageBand, like where you can do multiple tracks and have different ideas, that has been just a springboard for me creatively.
yeah.
It's like having all the crayons and the little
Yeah.
sharpener in the box. Remember those?
And it's I like the format of it. And, I tried Ableton and I tried
Mm.
FL Studio, and all of that was just it was a lot for me to look at. And
Mm.
I guess I always messed around with GarageBand. It just made sense for me to get like an essentially upgraded version of that, and I knew where everything was. And I mean, I could produce just fine because it's so easy to navigate. But now I'm trying to reduce as independent as I like to be. I try to reduce the workload a little bit, and so that I did work with him, and
Yeah.
that took a lot of weight off my shoulders, having
Yeah.
some extra help with mixing and mastering. Cause
We'll let you
it's
focus
hard
just on the creative part and not on the
right.
blocking and tackling, so to speak. Yeah.
And it used to frustrate me that I felt like I couldn't, like I had the idea in my head
Mm-hmm.
in the creative process of songwriting that I couldn't fully get that out. And I think through the help of, other engineers and people
Yeah.
that really are good at mastering and mixing and all that stuff and know the ways that things should be balanced out, that it just really helps blossom the idea I
Yeah.
originally had. I'm like, this is exactly what I wanted to hear. And I don't think I could keep doing that by myself. Because, I mean, I used to do everything like I used to have to do the album art. I still do that, but like it used to be album art, producing. I played all the instruments because for a while I didn't really know who else could come sit in and do it any different than what I was doing.
Yeah.
All the promotion and just everything that has to do with being an artist. I just had to do it all myself. And then I was like realizing like I don't think everybody does everything all completely to themselves. I got to get some extra help. There's
Yeah.
no way I got to go through this much pressure every time I want to put something out there.
Yeah.
But it definitely has been a learning curve, and I've only been professionally like pursuing it for maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think too, there's
Yeah.
something to be said for being able to do all the parts, and then because I'm a big believer in whatever you're doing, it's good to have as much knowledge about all of it as you can.
I would agree.
But then at some point, you need to let it go and offload and let other people take control, not necessarily control, but be the leaders of some of those pieces. So whether it's music or running a business
right.
or whatever the case may be. I see, because I have both backgrounds. I got the music background, I've got the business background. And I've seen a lot of people start up businesses crash and burn. And the two main reasons are, one, they try to do everything themselves forever and oversee everything and never let go. Or two, they want to offload everything super early. They get a round of funding that comes in. They go, great, I can now go hire all of these parts. But they never really get a feeling for how those parts actually work. And they're basically taking gasoline and putting the money on the driveway and lighting it on fire.
Yeah.
And when that money burns, it's gone. And I think it's very similar with what you're doing. You now have at least a solid enough background in education to know how all the parts work.
Right.
But at some point, you got to say, okay, I need to find other people to now take the next step with these parts for me so I can focus on the creative process and building the thing I want to build.
Right, and I don't get me wrong, I'm still thankful that I started out that way because I mean, working with him was the first time that I got like, well, I've worked in a studio before, but that was with the band, and that was like the first one-on-one experience.
Mm-hmm.
But having that, I guess, offloaded knowledge, it made it so much easier for me to be like, um, give that a little bit more high. You
There
know,
you
like
go.
I knew
Yep.
exactly. I could still kind of direct it,
Right.
and he didn't have completely like the full responsibility of everything. Like I still had an idea of what I wanted, and I was familiar enough with how that goes
Yep.
for me to be able to dictate a little bit and get the final product. And even still, like he sent me maybe 7 final masters before we got to like the final thing,
Yeah.
because I had just really listened to it day in day out, like for hours, just trying to listen to every little detail and make sure like this is what I want.
Yeah.
So you
And
had the margin for producing, and Brian was able to do more of the engineering, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't have to think about that. You didn't have to put any energy towards that. So yeah, that's great.
yeah, I was just able to continue channeling that uh like creative mindset and use it instead to not necessarily do the work but aid to the work that
Yeah.
he was kind of taking off my shoulders.
And I was going to say for you, Brian, that must make it easier too, right? Because you've got someone who can speak to you in a way, say, hey, Brian, on this, on the bass, can we get a little more XYZ versus, hey, can you make this pop more? Can you make this, for someone who doesn't really understand, might be more of a challenge to be able to tell you what they're looking for. Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, what I always just keep telling, like whenever I work with somebody, but like with Max, I was like, it's not done till you say it is. We're just keep working on this thing till it's just like you wanted. So just tell me what you hear, tell me what you want. I'll keep tweaking it, and I've I know I use Pro Tools and I know it really well. So I know all the little you want a little and I can take some of those kinds of things for people who have a little less knowledge. But yes, working with Max was great because he kind of knew, can you just bring the gain down a little bit
Right.
on this, or can you make that sound have just a little more reverb on my vocals, or and that back, because we did a lot of backing vocals and things like that, which I think turned out really great on that song. And yes, having his ability to communicate to me what it was he was looking for did make my job a whole lot easier.
Yeah, because I think when someone can say, they know the difference between reverb or delay or decay and delay, if they know all those things, it's a lot easier to specify to you
Yeah.
rather than just say, hey, can you make this sound bigger? Or can you make that? Then you're kind of trying to interpret what they mean by that. Is that fair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you start music? Did you like,
Well, I
He's 18 right now, by the way.
oh, yeah.
So-
Yeah, we should point that out. This
Yeah.
guy, yeah.
like producing music
No,
or
like when did, like
everything.
in your life, like was music something you just,
I was 4.
yeah.
So, or yeah, 4. I think I was 4. It was the drums. My dad's been playing them since he was my age now. So that's when
Mhm.
he started. And he's got lots of connections with like local shops and stuff. So he got a good deal on a Gretsch set that I still play to this day. And I got to learn that when I was 4. So I've been playing drums the longest. I mean, it doesn't show. I don't do any fancy tricks or anything, but like I know how to get it done. And I know how to
Yeah.
lay down a beat and, enough to be in a band with drums or whatever. But and then piano was 6. I don't know. That was I had a teacher for that and took a more classical approach to that, and I still haven't gone back to it for like from like a songwriter's perspective.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I guess I think it was the same. It kind of has to do with the same point I made earlier with like the teacher kind of telling you how to go about things and just that extra pressure.
Yep.
Kind of strangled the creativity out of that instrument for you.
Yeah, and well, I'm not saying that that's wrong. There's people that learn instruments to have that experience, but I guess when I was so young, I didn't really realize that I was songwriting necessarily, or that's what I was trying to do. But like, I avoided practicing at all costs because all I wanted to do is just be alone with that instrument and be like, fuck the rules.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do whatever I want with this, and I'm not gonna listen to what that teacher wants me to do about it. And I don't know. I guess over time that overload of like Beethoven and Chopin and
Yeah.
all that stuff, I was like, I haven't made it my goal to get back to that. But I have like I know enough to like layer in some parts and stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's not like I would say guitar is like the main instrument that I guess the melodic parts of my songwriting is able to come through, and I picked up on that fast because I started guitar. That was the last instrument I learned.
Yeah.
That was picked that up November 2020, so like the very tail end of
Oh
COVID.
wow! So just
So,
recently,
yeah,
really, in
really
your
recently.
short life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty recently. And I couldn't even play guitar and drums for you got to take about maybe half a year off of that because I had a collarbone fracture, so I wasn't even able to like get my full range of motion. I didn't even fit a guitar under my arm for a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it hasn't been very long, but I just make sure that I consume as much material and I'm practicing as much as I can, and
Now, did
I
you
don't
ever?
let people dictate the way I go about it.
Yeah, I was
you
gonna
know?
say, did you ever take lessons, or you just like learn on your own, basically?
Guitar, well, yeah. So I think guitar, since that was the most recent, I actually went back to the same teacher that taught me piano,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, "Listen, we're not doing any of that stuff anymore. We're
We're
like,
not doing book one.
yeah, we're not doing that because I'm like, I'm tired of coming here crying because you make me feel bad. I didn't practice. So
Yeah.
I was old enough at that point that I realized I was like, hey, I think like I'm a songwriter, like that's what I want to do, and I don't think I have any interest in learning these old pieces of music. No offense.
Yeah.
And he was like, no worries. I mean, this guy, his name is Jordan Alexander. He's here in town. He's a super talented guy, and my dad has been friends with him for the longest time too. But yeah, he I guess with guitar it was like, all right, I just want to I want to know the chords. I want to know enough to be able to like still teach myself, but know the basics so that I can just go about my way of songwriting. And then it kind of turned into like almost like show and tell. Like I would just like he taught me the basics just to get me started, and then I still was able to bring in my creative process enough to like do what I want with the instrument and have that freedom. And I would come in and I'd be like, all right, well, you showed me how to use Logic. This is what he taught me how to use all these DAWs, and
Okay.
that's how I'm familiar with it. And I would just come in and I'd show him a track like every single lesson I had, like twice a week or whatever. He'd be like, super cool. And he'd give me advice, and I'd leave, do the same thing the next week. And
He found a way to teach you.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
no.
I kind of had to push him around a little bit. I was like, hey, I don't want to, like, I feel like we need to listen to each other. I don't want to listen to you.
Yeah, and
I don't know. That sounds kind of bad, but like, I don't
No,
know.
but I think there's a lot of validity to it, right? And let this be a lesson to a lot of people out there teaching music. It's because I couldn't agree more. Is that if you stifle or suppress someone's creativity, excitement, you're only going to make it harder for them. And it would literally be like taking Picasso and saying, okay, lesson one, paint within the number type of thing. You just can't I believe in taking what that person brings to the table, and then now let's try to make it better. So this kid Max comes and this is what he knows, this is what he can do. Let me see how I can tap into that. My job as a teacher is to tap into that and bring it out in you, not put you in this box over here. No 6-year-old wants to fucking do Chopin or Beethoven on the piano, right?
Yeah.
They want to make noise and do stuff that makes them happy, right?
Right.
So,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still like, without that, I wouldn't be where I am today. Like, I still am grateful for the learning experiences that I had, because I don't know, like even learning that much classical music. As much as it sucked, it's like, now I know what an A minor chord is. So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that helps. Like I know how to read some music. I know how to sight read a little bit and whatever. So that helps. It in some cases it does, like to a small degree, yes, but I
Yeah, I
I
think
I can't sit around and pretend like it doesn't.
yeah, don't get
Really,
me wrong. I think there's great benefit to it. I
Oh
think it
yeah,
needs
yeah.
to come at the right time, though, right?
Right, right.
You
Yeah.
need to. It's once you're ready for learning different technique, learning, the music theory and circle of fifths and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, those do have some great benefit to them. But to start with that and lead with that, I think can be really disruptive for a lot of people, or discouraging, I guess is a better word, right?
Right.
Because I want to get you interested first.
Mhm.
If you want to learn to drive race cars, right? You're 10 years old. I'm not going to start with here's how a combustion engine works. I'm going to take you down to the go-kart track and let you race around like a banshee and really fall in love with it, right? Then we're going to start to, when you get good at it, teach you how does this engine work and how do the tires work, all these
Right.
parts of it that are going to make you better
Mhm.
and make you a much better driver long term.
Mhm.
But it's the same with music, right? If
Right.
we can get to those things, I do think there's a tremendous improvements. I don't want people to get the wrong impression and think I'm saying, fuck theory. But we
Mhm.
need to
Yeah.
start it from that place of passion first.
That theory wasn't that time wasn't the end of it though. Like I ended up coming back to it. I went to Berkeley for a summer and I
Mm.
did some studying on theory there and production there and guitar there, and you know they had some performances going on. They had open mics. I got a lot of experience there, and I took some. They had a new music theory class in my school, and I was never much of like a AP or honors class guy, but I was like, you know what, I'm willing for a challenge. I took the AP music theory. It was like the hardest class you could take at my school, and I was like, you know what, like I feel like now I'm ready to revisit it, and maybe there's something here that I could learn, and it really it was nice to sometimes theory is like is great to know,
Yeah.
and it helped me like a lot. Like I guess like it made sure like when I applied all the information that I learned from that class, that when I knew I was ready for it. What you're saying is well, when I got back on my guitar at the end of the day, it was like, well, now I know how to not really mess up. I know the right places to go. I know the right notes to play. I know how the whole layout, and I was
Yeah.
able to just kind of imagine that. So yeah. So I don't know. I kind of have like a yes or no answer
You had to
to that kind
you
of
had
stuff.
to get your footing, and once you
Yeah.
got your creative footing, then you're kind of like the mound of clay that kind of has a shape, and then education into the tools that
Correct.
just
Yeah.
Yeah.
refine you, and experience refines you. Working with different people
Mhm.
refines you, and that frustration you mentioned before, that it's oh my gosh, I can't get that sound in my head out.
Yeah.
That's like the old story about pushing against a rock. You don't move the rock, but you get so much stronger. So it's cool to
Right.
hear a young songwriter, a young musician like yourself, starting along that path.
Right.
Looking forward to what's coming.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it seems to me like you started really early on with the idea of songwriting. Like it wasn't like you,
I didn't really know what to call it
yeah,
then yet, but yeah, I would say so.
because a lot of kids just learn to play, an instrument,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
learn to
Yeah.
play other people's music, and they look up the stuff they like, right? And they learn how to
Yeah.
play that, and then they get a garage band going with a bunch of other buddies, and next thing you know, they're playing, Zeppelin or the Beatles or whatever. But it
Mhm.
seems like you kind of started on the idea of whatever you were doing, you're going to kind of create something on your
Yeah.
own.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I did end up in those shitty garage bands too,
Yeah, but that's
but I got kicked out. I kicked myself out of almost all of them because I was like, nobody's understanding the way I want to go about this. Like, I guess I don't know. It's weird. Like, being a songwriter has just channeled such an independence to like even non-music related things in
yeah.
my life because I started with that so much earlier on, and so I've just taken that approach to bands that I've been in, and a lot of the times they're like, I don't want you to be the leader, dude. Like I don't want to listen to you. I don't know, and I I get it. Like I don't know. So I guess I'm at a point in my life where I'm I'm kind of idolizing people like Jimmy right behind you.
Mhm.
Like he's the primary songwriter. He's the main idea here, and he kind of looked for some people to support that idea
Yeah.
rather than take over that idea and get in the way of the idea.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been in only a few bands, but that's a lot of the time that's what happened. Like they didn't give me the outlet to be able to implement my songwriting abilities, my creative abilities to the band in full. Therefore, it kind of was like, oh, just another old teenage band. There's
Yeah.
nothing crazy about this. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it takes all different kinds, right? Like you have a vision
Yeah.
and you want to control that vision. And that's not a bad thing.
I've always thought it was selfish, but I really do.
Well,
like,
see, I don't think it is. So I'll go back to life in general, right?
yeah.
I am going to turn 60 this year. In my entire life, I worked for 6 months for somebody else. I've never worked for anybody else other than that. I've always worked for myself. And that's because I find I don't play well in the sandbox. Like I like to have control of my destiny. And that's why I was an entrepreneur. That's why I did the things I did, because I didn't want to be stifled. And it's
Yeah.
not that other people were bad. It had nothing to do with that. I just had the vision that I wanted to go with, and I had to follow that vision. And if I crashed into the side of a mountain, I was okay with that because I crashed it into the side. I didn't want to crash because someone else steered the plane the wrong way.
Right.
So I don't think it's selfish. I think it's just kind of knowing who you are. Quite frankly, I think it's very noble to know who you are and to know how you work and then to put yourself in that place. Because I think to do the other would be inauthentic and then, quite frankly, unfair to the rest of the bandmates. If you say, I want to go into a band and you don't know who you are and then suddenly you feel frustrated and there's tension building, you're not really being fair to them either. So I think it's a pretty
Right.
mature outlook, actually.
Okay.
I told Max after we had finished the song, and we kept talking a little bit about things. I was like, Max, honestly, this is what I think. I think you should try to build a band around you
Right.
and your music, because I do think he has something special in his songwriting. I think, you know, it's a lot from the past experience, bands and things like that he's listened to, but he also has an ear for the future, I think, too, and he's got his own style. And I think to have a band that was based around him would just complement
Yeah.
what he's already doing versus, having something where he's just got to mix in with the rest of the guys. I just don't think that's, I think he could really do something great.
Yeah.
But he's going to need people that back him, not come in and try to change him.
Yeah.
And so I did. I tried to make a few phone calls to guys that I knew that were kind of that way,
Mm-hmm.
and tried to help connect him, because I think he's got a great future.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned Jimmy, right? And then you got guys like Clapton did the same thing. I mean, they built people around them. And I think more in those days, it was kind of interesting because it was band oriented. You were the Stones, you were the Beatles, you were the Who, you were a band, and you saw how difficult that was. And then now I think what you see is you do see more individual artists out there, and they build something around them. And I don't think there's anything selfish about it at all. In fact, I think it's, as I said, it keeps you in touch with the integrity of what you want to do.
And another thing, if you take that approach, um, especially a songwriter such as yourself with such a broad, ever expanding view and challenges that you see for yourself, you might still yet have a band, but might have a song that just involves you with the piano, or well, probably not piano based on what you said, but you with the guitar, or some other configuration. It's not going to be a problem. This is about your stuff, so it really does give you a lot of freedom.
Getting a lot of advice from a lot of old guys here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what the goals now, long term? Clearly, you want to keep writing.
Absolutely.
You want to keep producing music,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, you're looking to make this your full time, your life. Yeah.
I mean, I would argue that I'm already kind of doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess I want to take it more professionally, like in the sense where I could make a career out of it, you
Yeah.
know, with from a money standpoint, I guess, you know, like
And you're learning
I want
the
to be able to
nuts and bolts of it, right? In
right,
college.
right,
That's
yeah. And I thought, you know, actually that was one of the reasons I went, as like, you know, I felt like arts management might give me a chance to figure out maybe ways I can make money in the world of music, because it's one of the most challenging, inconsistent
Mm.
career paths you could ever have. I mean, there's no go to school for 8 years and be guaranteed 250 grand every year
Right.
as a doctor or a neurosurgeon or whatever. Like you never know what you're gonna make. You never know if you're gonna get that show. You never know if you're gonna, you know, make it through that whole tour. You
Yeah.
know, like, and I think that just comes with a lot of independent career paths. I don't know.
you use the word challenging and not hard. That's good. That's like
Yeah.
that's half full, not
Yeah.
half empty.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
the way to look at it.
There are
Yeah.
no problems, only challenges. Yeah.
Right. No, but I'm absolutely prepared for it. I mean, I hope by coming I hope by your age I could look back and also say that you know, I didn't have to work for anybody
Yeah.
else for very long.
I
'Cause
hope
that's
by my age you don't have to say I wore a tiger suit on New Year's Eve.
That was a nice suit. It's a nice suit.
yeah, well, I mean, my parents have raised me that way too. I mean, they're both they they do real estate, but I mean, I've always been told to, like, don't let people boss you around. Don't work for other people for too long. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you'll have to at some point, but that's in order to know that it's so much better working for yourself and creating something amazing, and not letting people get in your way and your hopes and aspirations and everything. And I've just taken that mindset to everything that I do and everything that I learn,
Yeah.
and it's just changed my whole outlook on life. And I hope to keep um I hope to keep going with that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a really healthy attitude, and kudos to your folks for giving
Yeah.
you that that freeway essentially, and that
Yeah.
freedom to think that way. Because yes, it's true. There are times when I literally could barely put food in my mouth, right? And I mean, I worked 3 jobs when I was in college. I used to get as much free food as I could because I couldn't afford to eat, and it was hard, right? But I never lost sight of what the vision was for myself, is that I wanted to be in control of my destiny and I
Right.
wanted to be in control of my life. No one else was going to be in control of it. No politician, no, I don't care who's in office, my life will still be good. I don't care who, I don't have to worry about who I'm working for. I don't have to worry about what the boss thinks this week. I wanted to be in control of who I was. And it wasn't easy. There are definitely struggles there. But if you keep in your mind that, to Alan's point, these are challenges, that's all. And if you look at them as challenges and not impossibilities, it's amazing what you can push yourself through. And I see that sort of fire in you. And I really,
That can-do attitude.
yeah, and it's
That's
really
awesome.
refreshing to see, because there's no victimhood. You see a lot of kids your age who are looking for, okay, where's mine? Where am I going to get mine from? Who's going to give me mine? Well, you're looking to go get yours. There's a big difference between that.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly didn't start thinking that way until recently, because I used to I used to look at all these musicians and just think, "God, there's got to be a secret. Like, there's got to be a reason that they're so popular. Like,
Mm.
there's got to be a formula that everybody follows. There's got to be some method, right?" And the truth is, there is, but it's different for everybody
Yeah.
else, like for each individual person. And it has to do with the material that you're emitting, like
Mhm.
what you're putting out there, how you're expressing yourself as an individual. I think people, I don't know. There's some people that hide behind their art, and then there's some people that let that present them, and that's what I'm trying to do. And everybody, you know, there is no other me. There's no other you. There's no other you. There's no
Yeah.
other you. And so I'm viewing my art and everything that I create as the same thing. It's just a encapsulated it's kind of like a screenshot of that, of my life, of my emotions and my feelings in that moment. And I, I have to make sure that I keep consistently doing that as my life goes on, as my life changes. And it's just like a documentary for me,
Yeah.
know? And honestly, I appreciate it more personally. It's a bonus if somebody else likes it, if 30,000 people stream it or whatever, but
Right.
I'm never going to run into half of those people that actually, contributed to those numbers that I see on my phone, like
Right.
I do this for myself and myself only. And
That's healthy.
Yeah.
and if and I'm not saying that I completely forget about how it impacts other people. I absolutely am so flattered when people are like, "Oh, dude, your music made me so happy. Put a smile on my face. It's been stuck in my head." Like, I love hearing those things. But
But it's balanced.
that's not my
Yeah.
goal
Right.
while I'm creating.
Right.
It's to make something that I like and that I'm going to be comfortable with, and that even I don't even mind listening to myself, like
Right.
if my own song is not my favorite song, there's a problem, you
Yeah.
know? So I think that's how I go about it. And yeah,
Great attitude.
that's the working for myself thing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think so.
And by the way, Max can dance too.
Oh yeah. I forget I do that sometimes.
What kind of dance?
I am mostly into hip hop actually.
Yeah.
But I went to high school for contemporary ballet, modern dance.
Awesome.
I did a lot of different things.
Yeah.
I tried to avoid ballet as much as I could. I was not really into that flamboyancy, but
Yeah.
no, I that actually did consume my life for a while. I'm not in a studio anymore because post graduation I'm not eligible to be on a competition team anymore
Oh,
for
okay.
whatever reason. But I'm still working on that and trying
Cool.
to figure out how I can still be involved in that. Because I mean, while I was still doing a lot of this music in high school, I was dancing, if more, the same, if not more, than I was producing.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I was dancing
That is
like
the
4
whole package.
like 14 hours a week, I think. But even that, like that, I actually that's good that you brought that up because like for a live setting, like dance has helped me a lot because it's gotten me used to being on stage.
Yeah.
And as somebody who wants to be like center stage, like have the band kind of substitute for me, like it'd be great to be dancing in my blue suede shoes like Elvis too,
Yeah.
like something along those lines, right? And I think that adds to my character too, and I hope to be able to. I know I'm young now, but I hope that at some point I could find a way to do that.
Yeah. Incorporate it all.
Put it all together in
Yeah.
one, because there's a reason I loved it so much, And
So hard left turn. Are you? Tell me about your T-shirt. Do you know what that a 351 Cleveland is?
well, this was my dad had a band called 351 Cleveland.
Okay, so Ford in the 70s made two different 351cc motors. The ones in Cleveland were a lot better than the ones made in Windsor, Canada. So you could get a car with a 351 Cleveland or a 351 Windsor, but the 351 Cleveland was what made all the hot rods.
Huh.
Hence the shirt.
Yeah, and my dad always had really weird band names, but
There you go.
That's a good one.
yeah, I think this is pretty cool too. I mean, they still get together from time to time. I mean, all of the members are practically my uncles at this point.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
They're so close to my dad. It's like they've
That's
always
great.
been part of my life. So yeah, I still look up to them too. And
Like us
especially
with-
when I need a cool band name, I'm like, hey, do you got anything? 'Cause-
Yeah.
I think you just need to keep your name. That's it. Just Max
yeah,
Besta.
yeah,
That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters.
Maybe slap on experience on the end.
There you go.
Yeah.
The Max Besta experience.
Yeah. Who knows?
So where can people go if they want to find your stuff, Max? Obviously,
Literally
look up
any
your name.
streaming platform.
Yeah.
I make sure to send it out to everything, but I know the common ones are Spotify. I'm on there. I'm on Apple Music. YouTube. I don't know if it's still popular, but Pandora, I'm on there.
Mhm.
Amazon Music. Those are some I can name.
Cool.
Everything else, I don't even know any other platforms other than that, but I know that I'm
Yeah.
probably on it.
And you gigging out at all?
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I just in one of those um college bands that everybody joins at some point in their
Yeah.
life, I think. But yeah, I mean, that's I'm trying to do more of what you guys saw.
Yeah.
Where I can kind of lead the troops
Yep.
a little bit and really just get what I write out there.
Yeah.
I mean, the band that I'm in lets me do that to an extent, but they kind of want me to write new music
For the band.
for the band
Right.
rather than they cover my stuff. They've covered a few of my songs, but I think they want me to write stuff for them, and I don't always have the time to do that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you're a busy guy too.
Yeah,
It's-
but I like it for the experience. I like playing with them
Yeah.
for the experience. I mean, we just formed this band. We've only played one show on campus, and they don't all live here. So half of them are from Maryland
yeah.
and like DC. So
Those guys.
Yeah.
yeah,
He's one of those guys.
we haven't played in a little bit because college breaks are quite long. So
Yeah. Yeah.
now we're kind of practicing again and trying to get some gigs here around like Royal American, Stu's House. I know a lot of college bands play there. I don't know, Tattooed Moose.
Yeah.
Just fun places to
Yeah.
be at here.
Well, just getting
the
some
area.
mileage, just getting some stage
Yeah.
mileage. Yeah.
Yeah,
Getting out
yeah.
there.
Just to make sure that it's good for me to still be in like a normal band, not necessarily the face of it, so that I could still make sure that I'm comfortable
Yeah.
on stage and playing and singing at the same time, multitasking.
Yep. I mean, both have
Interacting with
great
the
validity
audience.
to them, and I think they're really great experiences
Yeah.
for different reasons. Like you said,
Absolutely.
playing the acoustic all on your own is great.
Yeah.
It's a different level of experience. It's a very vulnerable experience, right?
Yeah.
It's just you, it's your guitar, and nobody else.
Yeah.
But then playing in a band is a lot about entertaining people. It's about working with other people and being cognizant of what's happening around you, which is another
Right.
great experience.
Yeah.
So all those things have a lot of validity to them.
Yeah. I mean, I think all of us in the band know that it's most likely temporary.
Yeah.
But it's for the temporary experience.
Get the
to
mileage.
Get the mileage, right. So but yeah, I am looking into the future. I guess I am looking to do more shows like that, whether
Yeah.
it be very stripped down like that was, or I don't know, I kind of have like a tiny desk ensemble type of thing going on.
Yeah.
I still like enjoy the authenticity of like a natural stripped down sound of like an acoustic set, just
Yeah.
very warm and just I don't know. I think that is well accompanied with like a singer-songwriter type of thing. Like I mean, the greats like Bob Dylan, Neil Young,
Yep.
they all did that. Paul and Garfunkel,
Yep.
all that. So
Tony Bennett.
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
so many I can name. I just
Yeah.
don't feel like doing it right
No need to.
now.
Awesome. Well, look, man, it was really great having you,
Yeah.
talking to you. It's really
Thank you.
excited about your future. I think there's a spark inside of you that few people have, and we're really excited to see what comes out of that spark.
I appreciate that.
And we'll be able to claim we discovered you.
Well, we'll have to give it that to Brian, because Brian brought him to me, so he can claim it, and then someone will claim it from Brian, and
There we go.
his
Yeah.
parents will probably have something to say about that at some point.
We're kind of like the Ed Sullivan show. here,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, well, what do you say we play a little bit of music, huh?
Yeah, sure.
Would you like to do that?
Yeah,
All right,
yeah,
cool.
I'd love to.
All right, boys.
This one is something else I'm also working on for my hopefully upcoming album. It's called Reach Out. I've been going through some things I can't explain. My temper's running thin. I can't contain. Did you notice me lost in a dream of low self-esteem? Did you hear my cries up in the skies of rain and misery? Can't you see the dust on my pants, the cuts on my hands, the rust on my joints, and the fading of my tan? Won't you reach out, reach out, reach out? Can't you see I'm fed up with lies? I'm red in the eyes. I bled through my shirt, but you noticed when it dried. Won't you reach out, reach out, reach out? And I've been losing lots of sleep. I can't see straight. How am I supposed to speak when I can't think straight? Did you notice me lost in a dream of low self-esteem? Or did you hear my cries up in the skies of rain and misery? Can't you see the dust on my pants, the cuts on my hands, the rust on my joints, and the fading of my tan? Won't you reach out, reach out, reach out? Can't you see I'm fed up with lies? I'm red in the eyes. I bled through my shirt, but you noticed when it dried. Won't you reach out, reach out, reach out? Thank you.
Thank you for watching Open Mic with Groove Kitty. We hope you enjoyed the episode. This podcast is for you, so please make sure you share, like, follow, and subscribe. When you do, it increases our exposure on every platform. This, in turn, helps to promote our guests. Remember, a rising tide lifts all boats. Thanks again. We'll see you all again soon.